Shabbat Shalom, brothers and sisters. My name is Moreh Rapha'Yah or Rapha'Yah. We are about to start our next parasha, which is called Behaaloteha, which means when you ascend. This parasha or this Torah portion actually talks about how we can perhaps ascend to Kadosh Baruch Hu, to our Creator, in a very precise manner, in many ways. And one of the ways to understand our Creator is to study Torah and to execute Torah in our lives, not just on Shabbat or a day of festival, but rather every single day, and follow the directions or the footsteps of our Mashiach, YHWH. So let's start off. By the way, if you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so, because we are in the middle of a lot of productions. There's so many productions that we are actually working on. The current production docuseries right now is called The 10 Lost Tribes in America, or the Americas, which takes it from North America all the way down south. It is very, very super interesting, all these docuseries that we are bringing on. And the reason why we are doing it is because so we can have a better understanding how and why our roots are so rooted within our hearts and our minds and our lives and our family, that we just don't know why are we reacting towards the Hebrew roots. Is because it's in our DNA. A lot of people don't understand that it is rooted in our DNA. Thus, we are called upon to go back, and that's why the word is teshubah. Teshubah means to return to Kadosh Baruch Hu, to Yahweh Sebaot. Let's start off. Parashat Behaaloteha yields one of the most important things that we can ever ask for, and that is to ascend to our Creator Yahweh. Let's start off. Chapter 8, verse 1, all the way to 12, verse 16. That's about 4 chapters. Yahweh spoke to Moshe and said to him, speak to Aharon and say to him, Behaaloteha, which means when you ascend the light, make the 7 lamps shine towards the front of the menorah. This direct command that Yahweh gives to Moshe needs to tell his brother Aharon or Aaron. It is a vital directions that Yahweh speaks to him, that he had to be in a certain way to set up the lamps. Now, let me make it clear. The lamps and the menorah are 2 different things. The lamps go on top of the candlestick, or what is called in Hebrew, the menorah. These lamps had to be filled with olive oil. Now, let me just show you a little bit of that. If you notice here, something very important, that now the conventional way, the way you see it, the branches like elongated, but here it looks more like a tree, because it was meant to be like a tree. The way it was formed, the way it was structured, it was one piece. It had to be hammered with a master craftsman. And the way it was crafted, it was pure 100% gold. If you notice the pomegranate that it has in between the branches, it really looks like a tree. That's what is called the tree of life. So it is very, very vital for us to understand something very, very important about these very important things. And one thing that I want to make you understand, it's the way the lamps were direction. If you notice on top, the lamps are are pointing at the middle, in the middle of the lamp or the menorah. Let's look at this. Exodus 27 verse 20. Take for yourself crushed oil, olive oil, pure for lighting, and light the lamp continuously. Now, it is very important direction because all this had to be followed with a certain directions how to light up the menorah in a certain time, in a certain weight, in a certain measurement in the olive oil. The olive oil had to be measured according to the seasons. Let me explain that. But with that, let me give you this verse first. Here, we can see in chapter 27, verse 21 of Exodus, Aharon and his sons will put it in the Ochel Moed, which is the tent of the assignment, outside the curtain at the front of the testimony, and keep it burning from the Ereb. Ereb means evening, unto Boker, which is dawn, before Yahweh. This will be a permanent regulation for all generations of the sons of Israel. Now, this very important and crucial words, which is the first one is Ereb, which is evening, and Boker, which is dawn, which is like very early in the morning, before the sun rise. This yields something very important, that the direction that Yahweh is telling Moshe to do it, it was a very precise direction, and that had to be a nighttime. Now you have to understand, when I say seasons of the year, for instance, the oil had to be measured according to the seasons of the year. Let me explain you. From Abib, which is a spring, all the way to summer, if you notice, in anywhere around the world, especially here in the United States, spring all the way to summer, days are longer, nights are shorter. And thus, the way they will measure it will be according to the seasons. The same goes with the other half of the year. From autumn or fall through winter, the nights are longer. Like right now, we are in the season of autumn, which is fall. Nights are longer, days are shorter. Thus, the measurement of the oil had to be a little bit more. So they had to measure and wiggle it according to how they were going to foreseeing the cycle of the whole year. That's how it was. So this very verse is very important, because once again, it's not just, when it comes to the Torah, it's not just on the superficial. You have to see it on the substance of the Torah, and whatever details I just gave you, it's included in what we just saw. Let's look at the Hillel, or Book of Luke. Chapter 22, verse 29. On leaving, Yahushua went to the mountain Olives as usual, and the Talmudim went after him. You see that? This verse right here is very important, because here we see something very, very crucial. And this crucial verse that we are seeing here is, why did the Mashiach went to the mountain Olives? It is important to understand that not everywhere in Israel, the land of Israel, olives were grown. It is very unusual that it was certain points in Israel, but in mountain olives was well known because of the olives. Now let me show you another verse. 26 verse 36 of Matthew. It says very clear here that Yahushua went with his disciples to a place called Gat Shamanin, and said to them, "Sit here while I go there to pray." Gat Shamanin In order for us to understand this very word, it is crucial to understand Hebrew, because if we only see just the word and we don't understand the meaning, then we don't connect the situation, we don't connect the event that is taking place. In this very verse, Mashiach went to pray, to do tefillah there. This tefillah, this prayer, was because he was about to give himself to the Romans. It is crucial for us to understand the connection between why he went there to Gag Shamanim and his event. Gag Shamanim means oil press. What kind of oil? Of course, we're talking about olive oil. The same goes with Mashiach. The connection of those two, just as the same as the olive oil is pressed continuously so he can give the oil, Mashiach was pressed so he can give his precious life. Do you see the connection there? Mashiach is the olive oil of Yahweh. The name Gag Shamanim in Hebrew, it's Gag Shamanim, which means oil press. So we can understand pretty much the reason why our Mashiach is very, very important, crucial, what we can call it today. Sometimes these words are very translated into the Greek. Sometimes that's why we don't actually get it. But when we go to the actual Hebrew word, we get the full spectrum of the wording. 26:36 of Matthew. Then Yahushua went with his disciples, and where did he go? To Gag Shamanim, to go pray. Now, 27:20 of Exodus, the sons of Israel, let them take for your pure crushed oil, olive oil, for your illumination to the light of the ner. The ner in Hebrew means the lamp continuously. This lamp have to have this pressed oil, crushed oil. You see the connection between the Mashiach and the olive oil, brothers and sisters? No wonder why the book of Revelation talks about the in between the seven candlesticks, the menorah was like the Son of Man, talking about our Mashiach, Yahushua. You see the connection there? Always the Mashiach comes to be, always coming to the focus of the Torah. Always. And let me bring a little bit more crucial to what we're looking at here. Isaiah 53 verse 4, in fact, he bore our sickness, our pains, which he suffered. However, we consider him punished, beaten, do you see that? And afflicted by Yahweh, Ayil Almighty. He was beaten because of us. He was afflicted because of us. He was punished because of us. He was suffered and took our pains and sorrows because of us. All he did, just the same as the olive oil is pressed, our Mashiach was the same. Do you see the connection of those two? It's amazing how the Torah, it's revealing the Mashiach in our lives. And it's just literally there. It comes alive every time you read it. John 5:35, he was a ner, a lamp that burned and glowed, and for a while you were willing to enjoy that light. This verse refers to Yohanan, which is the immerser. Do you remember that he was the one who was always doing the tevilah, the immersions all the time? His cousin. He was also a ner. A ner means a lamp. Each one of us are considered a light to the world. No wonder why our Mashiach said that we are the light of the world. Why? Because when you study the Torah, when you action the Torah, we become light to the world. We teach the nations the Torah. But we do the opposite, we become dark like the rest of the world. but we're supposed to be doing the opposite of what the world does. Matthew 5:15, they don't light near a lamp and put it in a hidden place where it does not shine, but they will put it in the menorah. Do you see that? So they will give light for those who are, you see that? Those in the house. Do you see that? All in the house. So it is very important the way it's being conveyed here, all these words. So now we can actually see it, everything that we can actually convey in our lives. Now, let's look a little bit, something very important. Something very, very important. Let's look another verse. But first, let me show you what is a lamp. This is the ancient lamp, and what we can see here is it had all of this, that it had the oil that we were talking about earlier, okay? It had the oil, it was pressed oil, crushed oil, and it was put up in the menorah, which is on top of it, facing the middle of the menorah. The middle lamp was called the shamash. Shamash in Hebrew to the English is called the servant. Who is the servant of Yahweh? Mashiach. But let me go back over here. Do you notice that in the middle, either you count it from the left or from the right to the middle is always going to be the fourth branch. My question to you, when did the Mashiach came? In which millennium the Mashiach came? He came in the 4th millennium. Do you see that here? Always pointing at the Mashiach. He came in the 4,000 millennium. Always pointing at the servant. And no wonder why the prophets talks about Yahweh, speaking about the servant of Yahweh doing his will. The Mashiach did that. Look what it says here. Let's go a little bit forward, okay? If you notice here where the Kohen HaGadol, the high priest, have to have this important steps, this stair rather, he had to climb all the way to the top so he can actually refill the lamps with pressed oil. No wonder why it is a command from Yahweh to give us the knowledge and understanding, but this Torah portion is called Behaaloteha. Behaaloteha means when you ascend. It is a command for each one of us, you and I, and those who are learning Torah, to ascend one level of Torah every single year, at least one level. The problem, brothers and sisters, is that we don't even climb one level. Why? Because we are just happy where we're at. But Yahweh says that we ought to ascend one level. This Torah portion is encourage each one of us to do so. But we need to have the proper motivation, and that motivation is to love Yahweh. How we are going to love Yahweh? By doing his commandments. No wonder why the Mashiach said, if you love me, keep my commandments. See, the love towards Yahweh is not about emotions. Yahweh does not care about your emotions. He knows how he feels. He knows how you are inside in your inner being, but he does not care how you feel, because everybody talks about how I feel. He doesn't care. Everybody talks about feeling towards Yahweh. He doesn't care about that. What he cares is your obedience towards him. Do you think I'm making it up? Mashiach said that. Yohanan, 2nd of John says very clear, in this, I'm just paraphrasing, but he said that, in this we know that we love Yahweh, because we keep his commandments. And his commandments are not a shame. You see that? So obedience towards Yahweh equals to love towards Yahweh. Of course, we have feelings towards another human that's totally different, but when it comes to love towards Yahweh, it's all about obedience. I just want to make that clear. So let's move on. Very sure, Genesis 28 verse 12, he dreamed, and there was in front of him was a ladder resting on the earth, and resting in the end of it, which in the Shemayim or heavens, and the Malachims of Yahweh Olim went up and they went down. The word Olim comes from the word Olah, which means to ascend. The same as the Malachim were ascending and descending, the same goes with us. Do you remember that Mashiach talks with Nathanael? And he said, and I'll tell you that the Son of Man, the Malachim, the angels, the messengers will go up and down on him. The same with us. We are the messengers of Yahweh. We are called to bring the good news to the world, but it is up to you to ascend to the Creator. Once again, it is a command for us to ascend, not to stay where you're at. We need to grow, in other words, in the spirit of Yahweh. Look at what it says here. Proverbs 11 verse 30. The fruit of the tzaddik, or the righteous, is the one who walks in the path. A tree of life is born. Why does a tree of life is born in a tzaddik, in a righteous person? Because when you action the Torah, which is the tree of life, the tree of life is basically the Torah. When you action the Torah, when you do the Torah, this tzedakah, then you actually become a righteous person. Not because you're calling yourself a righteous. No, it's because Yahweh is calling you a righteous person, not yourself calling righteous person. No. Or somebody calls you like that. That's fine. But what we are called to do is to action Torah. That's what it's all about. Now, let me just point at where the menorah was, and it was in the south point. The north point was the bread of the presence, and the mizbeach of the incense was on the west side, and that's the way it was positioned in the set apart place, the kadosh place. Zechariah 4:11, and I responded by asking, what are those two olive trees to the right and to the left, the menorah? Then I asked another question, why are those two olive branches? By discharging colored oil gold through the two gold pipes. He answered, didn't you know what they are? And I replied, no, my master. Now we are going to get into this, which is, I truly believe that it is something that we need to understand. And these two branches, these two olive branches, is something that we need to understand who they are. It is always pointing at Israel, always pointing at us. But let's find out. Zechariah 4:14, he said, those are the two who have been anointed with oil. They are before the master of all the earth. Who are these two branches? Who are these two olive branches? Let's find out. Revelation 11 verse 3, and I'll give you power to my two witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed with sackcloth. Now, in another time, we will talk about the prophecy of the 1,260 Days equals to years, prophetic years. This prophecy is amazing, but what I can tell you is that these two witnesses are none other than the house of Judah and the house of Israel, Ephraim. In another time, we'll get a little bit into it, but let's move on. What does the Torah talks about having two witnesses? Look at what it book of Deuteronomy 19, verse 15. A witness alone will not be sufficient to condemn a person of any offense or sin of any kind. The matter will be settled only if there are 2 or 3 witnesses testifying against him. Do you see how amazing it is? Do you see how amazing is our Creator that He wants 2 or 3 witnesses? In this case, our 2 witnesses. We are the witnesses of the Torah. But let me make it clear, we are not Jehovah's Witness. I just want to make that clear. But we are witnesses because we are exercising the Torah nowadays. Now, closing, our Creator is always encouraging us to ascend to the Creator, to have that pure oil, that essence of Yahweh Sebaot by the inspiration of the Ruach HaKodesh, which is the inspiration of Yahweh in our lives. And this is how we are going to ascend to our Creator. May Yahweh help us in these latter days that we are living. Please, if you have not subscribed, please do so you can get the latest production, and we'll see you next time. Shabbat Shalom. I'm Moreh Rapha'Yah. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. We'll begin.